We are living in some kind of stressful and very depressing times as of right now. Not to say that we should all ignore it, but at the same time, with how everything is being bombarded with us with regards to the political landscape of things, it is kind of hard to ignore all of it, and it does make us kind of feel like, man, life kind of sucks right now. But hey, we got ourselves a new movie that is about kind of our world today in a way where it's trying to be all dark comedy. Take it for what you will, but hey, you can't deny the director behind this as well as the talent. As much as we all are feeling like, man, do I really want to get myself into this? At the same time, I'm willing to take that chance if you got huge talent involved in this. If you ask me, I think it's worth the risk with regards to the people that we got in this said science fiction black comedy.
This time I wasn't scared.
Mickey 17 is directed and written by Bong Joon-ho. The film stars Robert Pattinson, Naomi, Ackie, Yeun, Toni, Collete, and Mark Ruffalo. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, Mickey 17, known as an expendable, goes on a dangerous journey to colonize an ice planet. Bong Joon-ho, he is a darling in the film world by so many people, having now directed some movies, but most notably, as recently, had directed the Oscar-winning and very amazing film Parasite. If you've never seen this film, highly recommend it. It is a must watch with regards to what this director can do and what this film is like. And with this being his latest project and now being like I think now his biggest one and having a huge all-star cast, everyone, needless to say, was excited. Everyone is hyped to see this film just because of Bong Joon-ho, but also the talent involved in this film and how this movie is being portrayed as what it is. With Warner Brothers now giving him the chance with this all-star cast, especially having Robert Pattinson, because as of recently, I am happy at the very least this man is given a second chance at life as an actor because everyone still remembers him from Twilight, which I think is unfair. It was early on in his career. He just wanted to get his name out there. And he has now kind of earned the respect from a lot of people of saying he's one of the best actors out there as of recently because of the different projects that he is now taking on. And yes, like I said at the beginning of this video, it's a dark comedy, okay? It's a satirical comedy on our world and the messaging behind this very much reflective of today. How everything is nowadays, I get it. If people are just kind of burnt out, not because they don't care, but because it's just really depressing nowadays. I get it. I got no ill will towards anybody. If you're just somebody who doesn't hate any of the messaging in this movie, you're just kind of like, hey, I need to take a break from all this. Totally understandable. I get it. I really do. But in the end, if you ask me, because I was willing to see this film because of the people involved in it, of course, Bong Joon-ho directing it, I thought this was a success with me by being a funny and poignant film of today. And like I said, I understand depressing out there, but I cannot deny this movie was pretty funny. I will not deny that. I had a fun time watching this, especially watching it with two friends of mine, and just seeing Robert Pattinson get himself into crazy shenanigans in a film that you're not really supposed to be like thinking to yourself like this would be as thought provoking or rather as topical for today, but it pretty much is like hitting the mark, right? It's like a pin needle. It like just hit the mark. Aside from a few issues, which I have, I got some positives that I want to get off because I really found myself really loving this movie. The performances are zany. All across the board, everyone is amazing in this movie. Robert Pattinson, like I said, this man is truly taking on roles that are challenging and would make any actor excited to be in because he's very lovable and he's very funny as Mickey Barnes and his clones and pretty much the protagonists, really, Mickey 17 and 18. Pattinson knows how to play a nervous and shy and naive as a man whose only job is to pretty much be a lab rat and is only used for dying. And he also knows how to play a very intimidating guy with Mickey 18. And I think that's what's amazing about him playing two roles, but also playing two different kind of personalities of Mickey Barnes, is that you got the shy, nervous one, which is kind of how he's similar to how he is in the beginning of the movie as the original one, versus Mickey 18, where I think he is more of having the anger that is kind of within Mickey, but it's almost like they kind of detach between the two. Pattinson plays really well as both Mickey 17 and 18, making for a fun time. Seeing him play off of himself, it's funny, it's great, and it pretty much makes you really enjoy the movie overall because of just seeing Pattinson playing two different versions of this character that have different personalities. They don't feel like the same, they feel like they're different, total opposites of each other. And that's what I think what works about Robert Pattinson and how well it works with the cloning is because with these two having those different personalities, it helps in the film's benefit of getting the message about cloning and the process that it has and the effects that it has on people. Naomi Ackie is sweet and caring as Nasha. She shows her as being loving and supportive for Mickey, and Mickey does the same for her as well, because you have a woman here who is, of course, as the movie suggests, she's a police officer, a soldier, and a firefighter. Okay, she's taking on 3 roles, and those are really kind of tough roles to fill. And for Mickey to kind of be the thing that makes her feel happy and joyful, I think that's cool, especially nowadays when we're seeing women be in more man-driven roles. I think it's cool to see a woman like Ackie not only get a chance to shine, but also really show that, like, it's okay if a guy can also be just a supportive person. He doesn't need to always take on the manly roles. He could just be just a normal dude who's just very supportive. And speaking of which, both Pattinson and Ackie are terrific together and have chemistry with one another easily. I think this has got to be one of the best, like, romances I've seen, just because in my head, I kind of would like a romance like this, which I know I'll get some laughs or people judging me in that way, but I mean, come on, we're living in an age where men don't need to be the dominant species in terms of like having to do everything. A woman can do it, and Mickey's just being the supportive one when his girlfriend is doing all the work that is usually gone towards a man. And for him to just be supportive of her and her feeling so sorry, but also very sweet and loving to him, and the fact that he's just being used for cannon fodder, it's kind of sad, but it's also kind of funny and sweet to see these two have a really loving relationship towards one another. And then, of course, you throw in number 18, who's just be a complete dick a lot of times, is I think kind of cool to see the dichotomy in which it's kind of a parallel of how men can be with women sometimes. So it's really cool to see to have a relationship like this seem not as stereotypical. It very much feels like it's out there on its own, but it is also kind of playing on the duality of a relationship. Though not in it much, Yeun is charming and selfish as Timo, Mickey's friend. He also does a really good job with being with Pattinson with the few scenes that he's in, which is, I kind of think, a little unfortunate because I do think that Yeun is now rising to being a really talented actor himself, and I just wish he had been given more to do in this movie, but when he's in it, I always have a fun time, and of course, him working opposite Pattinson in the few scenes that he is in with him works really well. I really dug the chemistry in that. Timo is just pretty much the dick friend who just kind of screws Mickey over and kind of drags him along, because Mickey's really a nervous and naive guy, right? He's just being a nice guy who's just going along with like a friend that he shouldn't have been friends with. Pretty much he should have avoided this guy as possible, but yet somehow he ended up being friends with him, which is unfortunate for him because in that sense, yeah, it just sucks to see Mickey just get abused by everyone, even his best friend. But Yeun does it in a way where it's so charming and so kind of cunning that it's almost like, you really do hate this guy in a way where it's like, wow, you're kind of charming, but also fuck you. I don't like you. Mark Ruffalo and Toni Collette are outlandish as husband and wife duo Kenneth and Yulfa Marshall. Kenneth Marshall being the senator from Earth that lost political races multiple times, and now he's taking everyone in his cult of people and some people that are just desperate of getting off Earth to go to a different planet. And people, if you know who Mark Ruffalo is, you know what he is doing with this role. And if this movie doesn't point it out, you must be clueless because they make it loud and clear who they are mocking in this movie. If you don't know, I don't know what to tell you, or if you think it's stupid, I mean, what else can I tell you? If you got Mark Ruffalo playing this role, and you know how he is in real life, especially on the internet, I mean, props to him. I mean, I don't know how he was able to do it, but man, he pulled it off so well. And Toni Collette, also fantastic in the film. And I think that the both of them work so well off each other that they almost just kind of feed off of one another most of the time. You could really tell that she's being the one that is the most controlling over the whole situation more than her husband is. It's kind of funny. Kind of hilarious to see somebody like Kenneth Marshall seem like he's this all great leader and somebody who you should follow, and yet somehow he gets mostly controlled by his wife, and you can tell that he is trying so hard to please her so badly, and he's trying to do the whole thing of like no sexual intercourse and all that crap, and then he can just be a loser in his own way. But I really appreciated the performances of both. The direction is phenomenal. Director Bong Joon-ho crafts a satirical and reflective film that commentates on our world as of today. He also does a great job of showcasing the dystopian nature of his future. Of course, this is based off of a book I should have mentioned, so it's not 100% like it's its own thing, but I cannot deny Bong Joon-ho, the way he goes about exploring this future of Earth and in general, I think it's done really well. Really fascinating to see how the technology is in this movie, especially when they do cloning. The cloning stuff in this movie is so funny in that it's almost like a printer. Like whenever Mickey comes out of the cloning process, it's like almost like a paper jam. It's almost like as he's coming out, it's like slowly or like just kind of stopping and going a little bit every time he's being cloned in that way. But I think Bong Joon-ho does a really good job of really, like I said, reflecting our time. This is a time in which things are kind of to end depressing. And it's not his fault. It's nobody's fault with some of these movies because, of course, with the strikes of 2023, most of everything had to be pushed back, and most of the stuff was already written and pretty much had been thought of since 2023. Just everything just got pushed back, and of course, with the election and everything, yeah, it results in movies like these coming out and just kind of reflecting the times in which we are living in. They do not hide this at all, but I do appreciate Bong Joon-ho's efforts of really delving deep into our society as a whole. The writing is sharp. Bong Joon-ho blends the dark humor and social commentary that's shown effectively. When the humor hits, it keeps the film entertaining, it keeps it really going, and it's just an all-around fun time watching Mickey Barnes and his clones. It's almost like it's sad, but also kind of funny when he dies. I know it's terrible to even say that, it's awful to even think about that, but you cannot deny how it's written and how they try to play off of the fact that this guy, he's just naive. He's just trying to fit in some sort of way. And I also, in a way, I feel like Mickey, in a way, could be coded as being a little autistic. Not to say, like, it has been said, nor am I, like, trying to make anyone who is on the spectrum, like myself, bad in any way. I can't speak for everyone. But I do think that for somebody like him, kind of be portrayed as how society sees people in so many ways, especially even those on the spectrum, it is kind of sad, but also funny because they also try to mock the society in which they portray it and how it is seen. And the social commentary, like I said, it's very strong. It's very much of today's times. And yeah, if you can't stomach it, I get it. If it's too hard to get through because of what's happening, I understand. But telling you, is it still funny? Heck yeah, it is. It's a very much a funny film to watch through. Cinematography is tight. Cinematographer Darius Kundi showcases the future the film presents, as well as the planet Niflheim. It also makes the quarters of the ship feel both lived in and cramped, because of course most of the majority of this movie takes place on a ship, and then some parts on Niflheim, the planet that they are trying to colonize, and it looks gorgeous. It looks beautiful. It looks stunning, especially sequences that have them on the ships in the cramped conditions that they are in. I think very much fits in with the lived-in feeling of Earth, as well as the feeling of this future. And I think that's really cool to see the cinematography really reflect that, and also just showcasing how everything feels cramped. Everything feels so compacted together because everyone's just all cluttered onto this ship trying to just live out their lives, but then of course being exploited by their leader to pretty much die for him, which is really sad if you think about it. But still, I think the cinematography really does convey the feelings of what this movie gets at. The music is excellent. Composer Jun-jae-il brings a stellar and abrasive score that fits into the movie with ease, embracing the style and tone that Bong Joon-ho is going for, and very much that sci-fi feeling. A lot of movies like this try to be very unique, very bizarre, very weird, and I think the music does complement styling of what Bong Joon-ho is going for. The story is interesting. Seeing this kind and naive guy being cloned as well as being abused by a cultive senator made for a hilarious and effective plot, making for a unique and original story. Though this is based off of a book, I cannot deny it is one of the most unique and interesting science fiction films we got as of recently. Because nowadays, a lot of people, whenever they think of science fiction, they usually think of the most stereotypical things about it. But with this movie, they tried to make it bizarre. They tried to make it stand out on its own and make it feel like is of its own merit. It doesn't feel like it has to borrow the ideas of like Star Wars or Dune, or maybe even some of the DNA could be there, but for the most part, it's its own thing. It doesn't try to take away any sort of IP ideas. It's just trying to be as original as it can be while still being kind of faithful to a book that a lot of people do enjoy. The production is impressive. Seeing the sets, costumes, and props shows the dedication that the crew put into the project, making the film look and feel high quality. Of course, this movie was on a budget of, I believe, $180 million, and so, of course, it's got a lot of money behind it, but I think the money was well worth spending in the sense of making it look as dazzling as it can and as otherworldly as it is, and really do seeming like it can feel like something that could be of today. And the way in which costumes look, as well as how the sets are, it's all impressive. The visuals are gorgeous. Anytime any effects are used, they are beautiful. It all makes it look sprawling and spectacular, all dazzling. It's all beautiful, especially on Niflheim. As much as it is just all snow, it's still gorgeous, and the creeper designs look interesting and unique and have a different feeling to it than most other science fiction creatures that we have out there. Such a great time. But there are a couple issues that stop it from going past being great, and I wish that wasn't the case. I wish this movie could have been like a Parasite, and it's not fair to even compare it to this movie, but still. So here are my problems or negatives with this film. The pacing and runtime I do think is a bit drawn out. The film feels stretched and elongated to where it feels like it's stretching it out to be longer than what it is supposed to be. With a runtime of 2 hours and 17 minutes, I think this could have been cut down. I mean, I do appreciate that Warner Brothers actually are like, alright, we'll let Bong Joon-ho do what he does. But I do think that there could have been areas in which this movie could have been shrunken down a bit and kind of cut some of the more minute things that I don't think need to be there. And the mob subplot feels extended, though it explains how Mickey and Timo get off Earth. I mean, that is what kind of kicks off the plot. But it is brought up later, back up near like towards like the end of the movie, when I don't think it really needed to. I feel like it was just there to just add something to the film, when I feel like it could have just been a throwaway thing and it would have just been solved. Instead, they kind of bring it back to near the end that I just don't think needed to be there. And it's there really for no reason other than just to have a scuffle. That's about it. There's nothing really there that I don't think need to have it be in the film. Bong Joon-ho succeeds with his dystopian dark comedy. It's one that reflects our times too much, but that's what works about it. Unfortunately, like so many people will say, like, could this work without the social commentary? No, I think it works really well if it does lean in on that. Though its pacing, runtime, and mob subplot overstays its welcome, it's still one that kept me laughing all throughout this entire movie. Me and my friends, we had a great time. We laughed our asses off, and in the end, we thoroughly enjoyed all of it. I'm going to give Mickey 17 an 8 out of 10. I thought this was a great movie. I was happy at the very least I got something great to come out as of recently that I can at least enjoy. So I will be doing soon my review for the Electric State as well as Black Bag. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other reviews coming soon.